Alrighty. Alrighty. Okay. Where am I looking at? There I am. Why am I getting an oopsie? Why is that happening? Oh well. Alrighty. So, I also don't need this. Can I hide shortcut bar? There we go. Yeah, I can hide the shortcut bar. Alright. Yeah, I don't need that. I know what I'm doing. Alrighty. So, gonna kick things off here by making a hex area for my hex jam that I'm hosting here. I want to get people to make some content, so I'm hosting a game jam over on itch.io. And this month's theme is all about hexes. So let's make a hex area. I've got several options with this. I could go, man, that is... It's funny because like no issues happening. It's just telling me that there's an accident, but like it's not telling me what went wrong. I'm probably gonna have to report that at some point. But I've got several options for creating hex area things. I could go down the route of the Evil's Ilmire approach, where I create a smaller hex grid area, and every single hex is something big and important. Or I could create an area and then have just air quote dead hexes. Putting together a map as we speak. Let's go, Caliber. I want to I want to engage with the community. So I'm going to be running these West marches. I'm going to be running these game jams, and I want to show off all the awesome content people make, because that's the whole point of a TTRPG community, is that we're a community. So for this first one I'm going to be making here, am I going to go down the route of making something on a big scale, on a smaller scale? What am I going to be making here? Let's see here. Do I want each hex to be 1 mile, 3 miles, 6 miles, 24 miles? I think I'm going to have each hex be 3 miles. I think that's a good starting point. So let's create a town and then work from there. Where are my towns? Let's use one of these. Here we go. Human town. Let's go. Oh my lord, that scale is ginormous. Alrighty. Let's have 2 human towns on this map. Why not? Let's place one here. I'm gonna shrink you down some. And then I'll place another one over yonder. How far away is that? So as the crow flies, that would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, 24, 28, 32. So it would take a day and a half to get there by travel. So maybe we put like a little something in between there. What do I put there? A place where people would go to respite. Maybe there just isn't a place. Maybe it's just a thing if you got to camp out on the road. Who knows? Alrighty. Let's create a river. Let's create a river. These are all sea, ocean. In fact, river? Nope. They probably just want you to use the detractor tool on this, so let's do that. Let's have our river start here and go down and around, and let's have it split here. And then we can have it also go around here. And then we can have it yeah, I think that's fine. Actually no, let's have it split here as well. There we go. Alrighty, this there's gonna be a mountain where the water comes from. So let's grab ourselves a mountain. Let's go big mountain. There we go. Alrighty. Let's now add us a forest, because are you really playing a fantasy game if you don't have a forest? A go-to for me, oh god, I clicked something I shouldn't have. A go-to for me is always a defensible landscape feature like a plateau hill, etc. with water. Yeah, I mean, humans would just naturally gravitate toward, a place that either has water or is just, somewhere, right? Like, typically humans didn't just go out to the middle of nowhere and they're like, oh, here we are, I guess. So let's get ourselves a tree. What kind of forest are we working with here? I want a swamp on this map, but I think the left side town is going to have pine trees near it. So let's make an area and reduce the density down a bit. Let's scale it down some because it's way too big. And then make the area just a teensy bit smaller. The density is still freaking huge. Holy crapola. Yeah, let's have forest here, here, here. But we're also going to have we're gonna have some sort of land feature there, so I'll get to that in a second. I also should probably build a road real quick. So first off, let's build a bridge. Stone bridge. Cool. Bridge. Let's just go with this bridge. Why not? And bump you up in size. And then we can have a bridge going up and over here. And that is how these human settlements connect with one another. Or turn it on its head and put a city in place with no water just for a plot significance. That's the thing too, is like I see all the time there is people that are very anal about maps. And the funny thing is we are playing a fantasy game, and so all the time I see people are like, "Oh, that's not how water works," or "That's not how a river works. That's not how this certain geographical thing would work." But then you can just always explain it away, saying, "Oh yeah, we're playing a game here. We're in fantasy land." Got to put it on the foreground here. And then we'll also have this leading out and a bit down to here. And then we'll also have this leading up to something. We'll see. We'll see where that leads. Deal with that. Let's get... I think it'd be really cool if they just had a random, like, if you could, like, on this this tool I'm using, Incarnate, if there was a random button you could click, just be like, oh hey, I'll just use whatever geographical, or I'll just use whatever thing pops up here. I'm leaning toward like a castle right now. I'm leaning toward grabbing a castle of some repute. Castle. Build a castle. I don't want to build a castle right this second. I want a prefab. Temple. Mansion. I'll just type in castle because that would make so much more sense. There we go. That fortress castle is pretty imposing. I'll probably not use that one. Nothing else, huh? I'll click on the stone keep here. I'll have this be a area, a place of adventure here. That'll be like an old thing that's been taken over by some monsters of some kind. So that'll be a castle taken over by monsters. I'll also put a place of adventure here. What about a cave? Do we have got caves going on here? Yeah, we do. What am I looking for? Let's go with one of these. Oh, I also want something over on the left side too. What about... What about a... So many options. Too many options. You know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna throw in a watermill on the side there. Screw it. What size do I have the trees at? I've got the trees at 18. Got it. Oops. Alrighty. Boom, boom, boom. Close this whole section off. Alrighty, let's work on this interior here, where this will be some zone of adventure in here. Maybe we'll have some factions going on. Maybe there'll be like goblins, or maybe some like bandits or some sort. You know what? I'll have this like tower be here, and this will be like where the bandits are staying at. There we go. They're like right in the middle of town here, kind of setting up shop. But then I also want another thing going on here. It can't just be the bandit land. It's got to be more. What else is going on in Banditville? You know what? There'll be some wood elves. Let's go. Yeah, there's some wood elves floating around here. That's what's going on. And they don't like the bandits. And so going through the town, going from town to town, there's a bit of an issue because it's a war zone between the bandits and the wood elves. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Actually, I don't like the, I don't think I like the road here, so let's... I'm gonna have the road shift to like this, actually. So I need to clean this up. Oh god. What floor even is this? I'm probably gonna change the floor now to think about it. Nope, that's still... actually, you know what? I think I'll make everything green around here. Why not? Why not? Let's... unfortunately does mean I'm going to have to redo some things, but that's fine. Yeah, I'll just color all this in. It's fine. And then I don't want this to be a fill. This is going to go, freaking way too small. Way too big. Just right. There we go. Bandits less than barbarians. Yeah, I like the idea of like the wood elves or maybe the barbarians here. Oh god, I didn't mean to do it. And maybe the reason for that is because they got a sacred tree. So let's. And the friggin' stupid humans have to go and ruin everything here. Tree of Love. Does that have like hearts on it or something? Yeah, maybe that's what the wood elves are all pissy about. Alrighty. Let's just fill that out. And then I kind of want a swamp over here. So what's swamp related? Do we have anything swamp? We got swamp trees. Okay, I can work with swamp trees. And for some reason, swamp trees don't have an area. Are you kidding me? Playoffs? What's going on here? Why can't I make an area of freaking swamp trees? If I want to make an area of swamp trees, the tree is the barbarian totem, but the elves is the elf sacred ground. No, you know what? So I want it to be the bandits like came here, and not only were they preying upon like people of this town and stuff, but they maybe are like thinking like, oh hey, maybe because these elves are so hippy dippy about this tree, maybe it's got like magical powers and stuff, and so we can exploit it. Man, there's no way that they. Why is there no area for tree? Come on now, that's barbaric. That's outrageous. I demand a lawsuit. This is just ridiculous here. You know what? There used to be a town here in this swamp. So I can make an area for freaking these ruined buildings, but I can't do area for ruined. That's ridiculous. There's gotta. Oh, you know what I gotta do? I literally gotta sit there and I gotta create a whole bunch of them and then just copy paste them. That's what I gotta do. So I gotta just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that looks good enough. Sure. So I gotta sit there and meticulously copy paste. Yippee. Oh God. I've never seen. I've never been to a swamp in real life. I've got no idea what the like egress from swampland to not swampland looks like. I'd actually be curious to know. Because I've always totally dig swamps in all media that I ever see them in, but I've never been to an actual swamp before. Alrighty, so now here's what I'm thinking. So these towns were built on the edge of civilization at some point. The wood elves, they laid domain to like this area in the middle, and that wasn't that big of a deal. Back in my day, we had to hand draw trees uphill both ways. I'll tell you what, I possess zero artistic talent. I doubt I could ever possibly possess artistic talent. I'm sure if I did what PewDiePie did and just, spend, an hour a day every single day doing it, maybe, but ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah. So what I'm thinking for this area, for this hex crawl area here is, we're gonna have this wood elf slash bandit problem here with a tree dungeon in the middle. On this side, we've got a ruin that is now taken over by, let's call them goblins for right this millisecond. We've got a hermit living off to the side. We've got a dragon, insert dragon here in this cave. But then one of the big draws of this place is this swamp. This swamp used to be regular living, but then a curse took it over, and a hag cursed the land and turned it into a swampland. And now it's overrun by all these swamp folk. Usually just 5 to 10 foot grass, really wet field. Gross. Let's get it to expand just a little bit more here. Yeah, we'll have another fixture here because this is gonna be like the Hag's Demens. Where that hag living at? What the hag doing? Yeah, let's just plop that down. Why not? Let's throw in a little something else. Why not? I gotta figure out that issue. It's just so dumb. It tells me that there's an issue, but there's no issue. I don't get it. An abandoned church, huh? Okay. Alrighty, I think I've got a writing scheme here. I just got to finish up this map, and then I'm Gucci. Any easy ones to pick here? Let's get you all. And then change the background color because I want this place to be all nice and swampy. You made a lot of changes. Consider saving your work. How about no? I'm almost finished. Back off. And then just a little bit past that, there will be snowy mountains to the side there. Why not? Mountain. How big were these mountains? I had them at scale 42. Okay. I didn't have them as areas either. Okay. What's up? How's it going, Rivers? How is it hanging? I'm making a hex map area adventure for my game jam, and then I'll be going over my West Marches adventure that I'll be running for the Discord. Alrighty, so that's swampland, and then lastly here, let's have a little something here. Let's have a graveyard, an old graveyard, grave. Also, I literally was like, you know, this minus 1 week old. I finally learned the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery. I have been playing TTRPGs for like, you know, 5-6 years now, whatever it is, and I, you know, delving into those places and fighting undead, and I was just now I found out finally what the difference is between the two. What are you using? This is called Incarnate. There is a free version of Incarnate. However, if you pay up a little bit of money, then you get a better thing going on. You get like more material, I believe, or maybe it is. Maybe there is no more free version. I don't know, but it's just a very simple map making tool. You can use it for using overworld maps. You can use it for making top-down maps, battle maps, world maps. You know, it's very good in that regard. But yeah, I would never been able to tell you the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery up until literally just a little while ago. It's funny how that works. Tree. What tree? What tree? Don't listen to him, Willow. He's a fool. Already got that. Now I just need to color this bad boy, and then we can get to writing up some stuff. Okay, so let's color it out, shall we? Grass meadow. What are we looking at for grass meadow here? Also, no more area for that. Can I not turn off area? What's going on here? Yeah, I'm unfortunately just got to redraw all those little brown lines. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see here. And I need need the brush size to be a tad bigger. And then we can make this. Let's brush it down some. Boom. Boom. And boom. Oh, look at that. I missed some. Look at that. Let's have the tree be there. Equidistant between the bandits and the wood elf demens there. Alrighty. Let's make you grass prairie green. How's this look? It's a little too dark, a little too not grassy for my fixins here. Oh, gosh darn it. Alrighty, now use this and make it a bit bigger. Alrighty. Now moving over to this land over now. Let's yellow lava. Not quite what I'm looking for here. Not dirt. Grass Meadowfield versus Grass Wildfield. Let's. I think I might do with this. Boom, boom, boom. Gosh darn it! The freaking area tool. Alrighty, so what is swamp? Do we have swamp? Get out of me, swamp. Grassy fields. I'm just curious if I type in swamp. Does nope, nothing pops up. Screw me. Nothing in even water. Nope, definitely nothing in water pops up. What does swamp color look like? Also, gosh darn the area. No, I don't want that to be the same green as the forest. There's got to be a way. Can I opacity? What does the opacity do here if I knock it down? Okay, so if I change the opacity up, it actually does change. So let's do that. Let's change the opacity some. And it gives us a different vibe. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. And that's actually really good for us because that means I can paint it over the other. That's actually ingenious. And then lastly here we can have these snow-covered hills till a landslide brought it down. sites. There we go. And go back to this, and we want the opacity of 50. Okay. Look at that. We've got ourselves a map full of adventure, and that I can write up real quick. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got here. So here's my working theory here with this Adventureland. We've got 2 towns. In the center, on the west side here, we've got a fortress filled with goblins. We've got a wizard who's an old hermit, and we've got a dragon in a cave. On the south side here, we've got a war between wood elves and bandits, and in the center of which is a tree that serves as a dungeon. On the right side, next to one of the towns, we have a what do you call it thing? A graveyard, or it's more like a cemetery at this point. And then to the north of that, on top right here, we've got a Hag's Demesne. It's a swampy area that she personally cursed. And we can have some interplay with this. We can have a bunch of interplay in regards of, we've got the factions of the Wood Elves and the Bandits going on. There's a lot of interplay to be had with that. We've got the goblins who have taken over this fortress, but are now terrified of this dragon. And of course, we got the magical hermit. And then on the east side here, we've got a hag who's got this demesne, and her magic is staving off the winter in this area. But maybe she's cursed, like invoking this curse to make this place a swamp. She inadvertently cursed herself, and maybe you got to go around the swamp to potentially undo the curse, or try and stop her, or kill her, whatever. And I'm thinking there that maybe the curse, it has something to do with the cemetery. Maybe she had like a lover, or maybe there was something that is precious to her now in that cemetery. And yeah, basically my idea is, like, I want this to be a area where you explore around in it, and it, like, the adventure keeps on leading you to somewhere else. You go to the goblins. Oh, hey, it's not just the goblins. You got to deal with the dragon. Oh, you go through there. Oh, it's not just Wood Elves and bandits. There's also maybe the tree is like angry at the tree gods, etc., etc. Maybe there's some sort of ward on the cemetery that the hag, you have to work alongside the hag to get to the cemetery. I think there's a lot to be had there. I think there is a lot to be had there. Let's export this bad boy, shall we? Looks good to me. Except, do I want to? Yeah, that looks good to me. That looks good to me. Hags and the hags. All right, the Hag's Lament. Alrighty, so I'll get to work writing that up, and then by tomorrow I'll have posted that to my game jam. Let me show off my game jam here. If I do this, I look at boom, boom, boom. So the game jam here. Has anyone else joined it? I haven't suckered anyone else to join it just yet. But my game jam, it is running from July 1st to July 25th. The idea is you simply create something involving hexes. Maybe it's a full-blown hex crawl. Maybe it's something a little bit different. Who knows? But the idea is I want to get people in on creating content, and then I get to show off the content. I'm going to have submission categories in regards of under 1,000 words, 1,000 to 5,000 words, and then over 5,000 words. And I'll give out awards for most creative, most practical, community favorite, judge choice, and best newcomer. And just want to show up. I want to get people making content. Something important to note about this content is it doesn't need to be conventional. I definitely want to see people create interesting content that isn't just like creating what I just created in the past 10 minutes. I want to see people get creative with it. I want to see people get funky with it. I want to see people stretching the idea of what is a hex crawl. I want to see people just absolutely pushing the boundaries. I want to see people expressing that creativity in fun times. A point crawl for within a hex. I mean, why not? Anything's possible. What tool? This tool that I'm using right here is called Incarnate. But mind you, for this game jam, you can submit whatever you want. You can hand draw it for all I care, so long as you can post it up in a PDF or whatever on itch.io. Yeah. But the tool that I'm using here that I used to create this hex map was in fact Incarnate. I'll show you guys off a little bit of what Incarnate can do here. So so today I used Incarnate to make this make the banner. I did it up relatively quickly here. Just did that. But Incarnate, it does so much more than just, that style. So let's take a look at my folders. Don't want to show people off the link. Let me grab a link for that. Let me grab a link for the game jam here. Boom, boom. Oi, Steve, how's it going? How's it going? That was a link to the game jam, and then for anyone interested in Incarnate, let me grab a Incarnate as well. Incarnate. Mind you, obviously, once again, you don't have to use Incarnate. I'm just using Incarnate because, it's what I know. It's simple stuff for me, but I've been using it for a few years now. So let me show off some of the other stuff here. So let's take a look at Is there a way I can? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so here I've got this top-down map. This is just a simple one, simple top-down map for whatever. Go back to overview. You can get a little bit funky with it. You can definitely zoom in more and give put some little fun little things in there. Like, oh, look at that. There's a scary dragon shadow in the background. Ooh, But I think a big thing that a lot of DMs in particular that have players that are obsessed with battle maps is, of course, doing battle maps. There is a ton of battle maps you can use. So here's just little things I've made here. Little inns and. I remember using this one. That was a pretty little fun little encounter there. I remember I ended up using this one quite a few times in a campaign. Ew, they send your data to Meta. I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, Z Logic. What company and or service is not stealing and or sending your data to someone else? I am genuinely curious. I first off, I didn't even know that was a thing. But secondly, I genuinely do not know if there's companies that do not send your data or steal your data. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've got no idea. Oh, you know, actually, that's funny. I have a whole bunch of old Hexcrawl maps in here too. Look at this. Mr. Zuckerberg thanks you for so much for your data. It was on the sign up warning. Huh. I did not know. Mind you, I've had this thing for years, so. Look at this. I got some old hex maps in here. Oh, I used this for a campaign, yeah, and I use this for a campaign. Good times, good times. For warning about the vax. Oh, you know what? Here's a I expanded my Curse of Strahd campaign to be even bigger. So yeah, this is the map that I used. So I made my Curse of Strahd campaign much geographically bigger. So like you can see right here, like right in the beginning, this tiny little town, and then I got the castle over there, and then I added basically a few more towns here and there and everywhere. So what you doing finding a good resource to work with? So this is Incarnate. Do I think it's the best source for making maps? Probably not, but I'm personally not a good artist, and thus, just grabbing tools and slapping them here and there and everywhere kind of works for me. I'm sure there's some people who are much better cartographers. And I'm not. I know for a fact there's people that are much better cartographers than I. So is what it is. But this is my expanded Barovia map because I hear Tailspire has the whole world map of Strahd for Strahd. Tailspire isn't a what do you call it thing? Like Tailspire is like a 3D like tabletop simulator, right? So I've got no idea. I've never touched Tailspire myself. I got started on using Hexographer in the Hex writing guidebook. Yeah, the looks good. Thank you. Yeah, I know that cartographer or the hexographer is just an all around incredibly solid tool. You know, hexographer obviously you can't create maps like this, of course. But if you don't need it, you don't need it, right? You need sandbox generator. I see. Oh, good times in the lanes of Barovia. It's funny, I never actually went over in any of my videos on my expanded Barovia. I probably should have. Maybe I'll make that one of my videos in the upcoming future here is talking about my expanded Barovia. No, it ain't that fancy. Which one was Tails? Like, Tails. I'm trying to remember. I genuinely can't recall. Yeah, that's funny now I'm thinking about it that I never talked about my expanded Barovia. Because ultimately, like, my Curse of Strahd guide series, I never really was like, alright, gang, here's this part, throw out everything and use my stuff. I typically was like, okay, let's try and run it as close to rules as written as possible. So that was my mindset, was to not be like, alright, gang, throw out that stupid old Barovia map. Look at my epic awesome map. That was probably my mentality there. I took your advice on Barovia and I'm doing multiple dinners. That's the way to go. I absolutely wholeheartedly believe that is absolutely the way you should do it. It makes I think it makes the campaign a bit more invigorating. But man, just like thinking back, like, oh man, good times. I'm trying to think. I wonder how long it took me to make this map of Barovia here, because like I obviously started off with the base of Curse of Strahd, you know, the just that little area here, but then I greatly expanded out. Man, it must have taken me ages, but it was worth it. Whenever I run Strahd, I always expand the map and world out to allow more towns, allow more quests, allow more, you know, to like making the world feel a bit more lived in. Alrighty, so with that, with my other map finished, and how the frick do I get out of this thing? Do I have to? Oh, here we go. There's the next. Back to overview. Sandboxes are fun because you can really tackle problems on linear. Yeah, I'm at the point in my TTRPG career where I don't like running linear adventures for people. I hear Adventures League has a sweet ad for yes. I never went over it. I probably should, but the Curse of Strahd Adventures League stuff is fantastic. It is so good. Oh my gosh. It's funny because Adventures League content was typically the stuff that they were like, all right, we're making a bunch of content for these books, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna tone down what's gonna be in the book, and then the stuff that's not good enough for the book is gonna be the Adventures League content. But what ended up happening a lot of times is the Adventures League content was just as good, if not better, than what was in the actual book. A perfect example of that being good old Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Waterdeep Dragon Heist had a fantastic Adventures League season. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, my freaking Pokemon. So I at one point ran a Pokemon TTRPG, and I used this map. Oh, good times, good times. There was a point in my TTRPG career where I was on average running a game a day. I used to run a lot of games. Unfortunately, I've had to slow down. Maybe in the future I'll be able to pick it back up. But man, what are some tips for transitioning from narrative railroads to a sandbox as a DM? So ultimately, ultimately, what I would say is it's perfectly fine to start off with that narrative railroad to get the players up and running. Uh, just looking at let's for example take this Pokemon here, right? I think it's perfectly fine for you to start off in a town and start off in a confined area. And I'm about to be attacked by a cat. Let me show off my cat real quick before I get attacked. Look at him. Look at him. It's almost feeding time at the zoo, so if you're in his way before he gets to the auto feeder, then you're kind of screwed. But it's perfectly fine to start off in an area and build up the character because you want to get them their items, you want to build them up, you want to show off all the goods, and then you create that change to the environment, right? Like you start them off and then they go in whatever direction you allow them or you have available, right? What thing, I guess let's just take a look at Curse Strahd here. Like you start them off in the town, but then after the town, they just go which way. The important thing is though is with the sandbox to make it really, really feel like a sandbox. In my personal opinion, is you create a large open area and you create, all these different environs and all these things going on. But ultimately, you need to give them a sense of drive to adventure in there. So a real quick, simple way to do that is give them, operate under the rule of three. Give them three different quests, and these quests take them to different edges of the sandbox, different areas of the sandbox. And when you give your players that option, that freedom of choice, that's when they feel like they've got options. Oh, hey, if we help, old Granny Smith there, she's gonna take us up north, and we got to go deal with the Yetis. Oh, but what's his face, Uncle Duncan? Apparently he lost his favorite sword over in that castle that's been taken over by ogres all the way over to the east, and so on and so forth. That's when I think a sandbox really shines and still like transitions from that narrative railroad to that sandbox perfectly, is when you have them follow that string and then you dangle out a whole bunch of strings in front of them, and then they can go where they want to go, do what they want to do. They go to a new town, they pick up new quests there, they interact with more NPCs, etc., etc. That's when I think the transition from the railroad to the sandbox shines brilliantly. Hi, no fun. Are you in the business? I don't know what the business is. I mean, if that's like, I've been getting a bunch of shorts on my feed recently of the Tony Soprano, the Sopranos, I guess, and that's making me think like, hey, are you in the business? Like you in the trucker, garbage disposal business? How do you feel about adjusting things as the players play, both in session and in between sessions? So not only do I feel strongly that that is the way the game should be intended to play, I think that there should be a dynamic loop feedback, right? You should create an area and then tell the players, hey, here's what's going on in the area. And then your players say, hey, I want to interact with the area in this kind of way. And then you adjudicate that and you work things out. Now, something very important, you said they're both in session and in between sessions. So in session, whatever happens, happens. But something very important is in between sessions, I would, right after the session, or maybe just a little bit after the session, I would ask your players, hey gang, what are you going to do next session? And when you ask them that very important question, that is going to help solidify where they are going to go next time. And far more importantly, you as a DM, that's going to allow you to prep, plan, and get ready for the next session. So I strongly recommend you ask your players, hey, what are you going to do next session? Where are you going to go? And thus you can sit there and prep what is needed and get ready to deal with all the shenanigans that they're going to be getting up to. Ultimately, D&D is a game of improvisation, so you're not going to be able to have everything absolutely prepared 100%. But you always want to get to as close to there as possible. Where do you draw the line so it doesn't cheapen the challenge? So no, I'm of the ruling mindset of I am not a dungeon master, I am a referee, and there's something very significant to be had with the distinction when we're looking at modern D&D, specifically modern 5e, how the air quo average game of 5e is being ran and played through these days. How that is the DM is a director, and they are showing off they're putting their players in a screenplay. And you're sitting there, you're going good players, and you're pushing them into a cool sort of environment. You're pushing them to look awesome. You're trying to get all their perfect angles. That's modern dungeon mastering. Now that wasn't always the case, and at one point, being a DM used to be referred to as a referee. Now, with modern DMing, I see a lot of people purposely change things so the players don't get TPK'd. I see a lot of times where modern DMs make monsters act dumb when they should be acting a bit smarter. I see modern DMs not attack someone when it would be the most advantageous thing to do at that time. I see a bunch of that, and so many more examples. But ultimately, for me as a player, I feel like that makes the experience worse. Specifically, one of my big things was when I was a player one time, a DM ran a beholder, and I was thinking, oh man, we're screwed. This beholder's got such a great advantage on us. Our group is kind of dumb and yada yada, this and that. But then what ended up happening is this guy ran the beholder in such a way that the beholder constantly was like just at ground level and didn't move much. The beholder didn't keep its eye trained on the super duper magic person. The beholder, just like operated in such a way where we survived and we won, but it didn't feel like a good experience. And that right there was one of the major reasons for me that I switched over to being a referee. Now, as a referee, how I run the game is as follows. I create the sandbox area. I create the stat blocks for these monsters. I have like how the monsters would react in this certain way. And what I do is, as the referee, I let the dice fall where they may. I do not change the monsters to act dumb so that the PCs can win. I don't have I don't make the trap a little bit less deadly because the players got beat up all of a sudden, and I keep everything on the up and up. And I'm very open about this when I'm running games for people. I say, hey gang, if the monsters, if you give the monster a chance to push you off a cliff, it's going to push you off the cliff. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like for me, that is very liberating to be the referee style of DM, in that my players know exactly what's up. If they go into a dumb situation and they get beat up, it's not because I adjudicated anything. It's not because I was antagonistic toward them. It's because I ran it the way it was going to be ran, no matter what. And far more importantly is it's very rewarding for players to get through a dungeon, to get through that combat encounter, because they know that I was not holding back. They know that, if they beat this bad guy, it's because they legitimately beat that bad guy. And that right there, has freed me to not have to worry about the issues of, I really like that PC. I don't want to kill them, so I got to sit there and figure out a way to change that trap. Or I got to, you spend so much mental gymnastics time in the middle of a session changing things up. And playing as a referee, I get to sit there and I get to have fun with the players right there. They get to riff off of the NPCs that they're with. I get to run the monster purely as I intended to run the monsters, etc., etc. And it's just so much better I truly do believe this. For me personally, it is both better for myself and my players to act as the referee, not as a DM that tries to adjudicate or change things mid-sesh. I want monsters to behave according to their personality, which doesn't mean optimally all the time, but always not always the smartest. I just want them to have motives and act in their environment. Yeah, exactly, right? Like a perfect example being that beholder fight, right? Like if we had interacted with that beholder before, and the beholder was shown to be intelligent, and then all of a sudden we get into a fight with the beholder, and instead of being intelligent, the beholder sat there and didn't use its special abilities at all, and just sat there and got attacked by melee. That right there goes against like what I want that monster to be. Now, if that beholder had been presented as like some dumb brute that just sits there and doesn't know how to use its abilities, then sure, if we get into that fight with that beholder, that's perfectly fine, right? But ultimately, you can run two bandits two different ways. You can have the conniving bandit who's always gonna like take pot shots and then run away, and then you can have the brutish bandit who sits there and thinks they got a chance to fight you. I think those are both perfectly fine. Agreed. I prefer referee, but I started with Frost Maiden because I'm newer. No. So, yeah. So a great example of that is you can run that referee style play in pre-made adventure modules very easily, right? You can absolutely say, "Hey, gang, like I'm going to be the referee here. I'm going to run things, and if you mess up, that's all on you." Now, admittedly, if you are anti-killing PCs, then the levels 1 and 2 portion of the adventure are incredibly deadly, of course, because the people who made that campaign they definitely had they had an inkling to kill level 1 to level 2 PCs, but ultimately, I think it's perfectly fine to just sit there and say, hey, like, I'm not changing anything. I'm not going to nerf anything. I'm not going to buff anything. I'm not going to change anything. You guys go up against a encounter. You guys go and get yourselves hurt and then try and press on even further. You guys mess up. That's all on you. I know that there is a lot of people who are afraid to either kill PCs or to cause TPKs or do whatever. But once again, with that referee style play of running the game, I think it's very important that you be very, very vocal about they should never be blaming you for a PC death or a TPK. A perfect example of that is one time I ran a West Marches campaign. And in that West Marches campaign, there was 79 dead PCs over the course of 82 sessions. Only one player, one time, got a little bit uppity with me about their PC getting killed, but I rolled it out in the open, like how they're going to get killed, because that character in particular, they got attacked by a dragon. I rolled like, okay, the dragon's going to attack you on a 1, you on a 2, you on a 3, and I rolled a 1, and then the dragon killed him, yada yada. But overall, like, because once again, being very vocal about it, being very forthcoming and open about it, rolling out in the open, doing all of that, I had 79 dead PCs and only one person one time got upsetty about it. We had plenty of TPKs throughout that campaign. We had plenty of dead PCs. I have one PC lost their soul. One PC or several PCs got petrified, etc., etc. And every single time, instead of blaming me, they would either blame the dice and or they would blame each other and themselves. I distinctly remember one of the TPKs. They absolutely could have won that fight, but the Dragonborn didn't use their breath attack. If the Dragonborn had used their breath attack, they would have came out of a fight with maybe a few people dead, but they would have survived. But I just think I remember, like, after the fight, they're like, oh damn, and then they were like sitting there being like, oh wait a second, you didn't use a breath attack. Oh wait a second, you when you cast that spell, you missed. Like stuff like that. Basically offloading all the mental load and balance to the prep. I'm struggling a bit with it because I always think, will they be able to do it? How could I do this? A solution, not the solution. Yeah. I personally am I'm personally of the mind that you, before running the session, you ask your players, hey gang, do you have any inkling on where you want to go, what you want to do, so I can prep that the best, and then you prep it, and then you run it as was intended. By your machinations, whether you're running a pre-made module or you're running your own module of some kind, and then if anything bad happens, hey, that's what happens. Ultimately, well, once again, like, just my personal preference, I know that I do not enjoy when I feel like I didn't have any agency in the matter, where my poor decisions don't punish me, and ultimately there too. There's two sides of that. If you run a game where like you're always adjudicating stuff and trying to constantly like balance things out or whatever, you get the one side of, oh hey, my poor play doesn't punish me, but then you also have the other side of, oh hey, my good play isn't rewarded because I was gonna succeed no matter what. Always roll with transparency. I'd say for the most part, I always roll with transparency. There are a few things that I do not do that on. When I'm running some old school games, or not even old school games, even 5e, there are some roles where I don't want you to act with a meta thinking logic behind it. You know, a good example of that is stealth. Like I would never have my players be like, "Oh, hey gang, roll stealth to see if you're stealthy as you're walking past here," and then like, then before the action took place anyway. Because then if you fail, then you're like, "Oh, hey, I know I'm not stealthy," or I know I'm super stealthy. I'd always just have my players, I'd operate a little bit differently, but besides very few exceptions, like specifically in combat in particular, I would always roll with transparency. Expectation control is important, yeah, for sure, but you have to be experienced enough to judge something very complex. Yeah, so I mean that's honestly where that's honestly where you sit there and you're very transparent about your rulings. You say, hey, like, whatever scenario pops up, you say, hey, this is how I'm ruling it. This is, and something that's very important about all that adjudication stuff as well is, uh, handling that judgment quickly is, we typically, the average group only plays once a week for like 2 or 3 hours, right? Do you want to spend as little time as possible on rulings? You want to spend as little time as possible on flipping through the book. You want to spend as little time as possible doing these things that we typically didn't sign up for. I'm sure there's some people out there that are like, oh man, I love showing up and reading the book and figuring out this one very niche example thing. But for the most part, most people don't want to do that. So once again, like, if a weird, wacky situation pops up, I would always say, hey, in the snap of the moment here, to get the game moving, I'm going to rule it this way. I'll review it later after the session. And if I don't like that ruling, then we'll change it later. But right now, we're going to operate under these conditions. Because we want to get the game rolling. We don't want to sit there and grind it to a halt. Let's just keep the game moving along. Yeah, ZG Logic, or Z Logic. What I'm struggling with is that I cannot help myself thinking my encounters through from a player perspective, and I feel like it would be fun to not do this for once. Yeah, if they aren't actively looking, I just revert to passive skills. That's fair. Can I help myself thinking my encounters through from a player perspective? And I feel like it'd be fun to not do that for once. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I would strongly recommend there is, just so like, yeah. So you said you're running. Did you say you're running the? Hold on, I'm getting some weird stuff going on here. Yeah, so for that, I would say you can, instead of running a more narrative style of game, then you could run a more simulation style of game. And for the more simulation style of game, you simply divorce yourself. No, just join in the conversation. Yeah. So I was looking at something else. Something popped up on my phone. But I would say leaning in toward the simulationist style of gaming, where you leave everything up to chance. You're going around the wilderness. Hey, random encounter. You're in the dungeon. Hey, random encounter. This monster is X feet away, and roll the dice. They're that far away. And what's their disposition? Oh, hey, the monster's actually like looking to talk to you. What do you do? Having a game where you leave it up to the simulation side of things, and you are simply you're rolling up the simulation right there on the spot, can be a really great way to divorce yourself from being locked into sitting there over prepping, sitting there constantly thinking, oh, hey, how do my players react to this? Oh, hey, maybe I should run some simulations, right? Instead of that, just leaving everything up to chance, leaving everything up to dice, and then just acting upon that in the heat of the moment can be a pretty simple but effective way to go. Because I recently just ran a West Marches game, and in that there was a plenty of times where I had absolutely like every single session I would show up and I would not know what the players were getting up to. So I just had this huge area prepped, and then the players would show up and they'd be like, you know what, we're gonna go here today, and I'd be like, okay. As you're going a long way, let me roll my random counter. Oh, hey, freaking 20 Sturges attack the party. Then all of a sudden the 20 Sturges attack. Alrighty, as you're walking along, oh, hey, you find some troglodytes, and the troglodytes are, oh, hey, look at that, the troglodytes are actually willing to talk to you. What do you do? I like the idea of the free sim. It sounds very freeing as a DM to know you can fall back on it. I should give that a try. I should try that. Yeah. So you do build a lot of random tables. Yes, absolutely. Something important to note about random tables is, I don't know how ingrained on the OSR, the old school way of gaming you are, Z-Logic, but that's very much so a staple. Is that when you're in a dungeon, you roll up, and you like every two turns, every 20 minutes that your players are in the dungeon, I roll a dice, and on a 1 or a 2, then boom, some random monster or some random encounter. But something important to note about random tables is that they're not always combat. I think it's very important to have a whole bunch of random encounters that aren't necessarily combat. It could be bumping into allies. It could be a weird magical effect. It could be an environmental change. It doesn't just always have to devolve into, okay, it's it's 2d20 monsters that just want to eat you. Random tables are actually really fun to use. More tables. Yeah, so Caliber was one of the players in my previous West Marches, and he can tell you all about it, that I had a whole bunch of random encounter tables for all sorts of random things. And sometimes they got punished just walking around, and sometimes they got greatly rewarded just walking around. Dr. Simulation, or How I Learned to Love the Random Tables. That's actually great advice. Thanks. No problem. Yeah, so to give you like an insight for my upcoming West Marches game that I'm going to be running, I'm going to be posting about it. If you join my Discord, if you haven't already, I've got a full-blown tab of the stuff going on. In fact, let me show that off here. Slay the Beast. Here we go. So in my Discord, I got a link down below. When I design these random encounters, I typically do it. I typically work on a 1 to 3 rule. I typically have a third of them will be more likely than not combat. Like it could be just outright a beast that wants to attack, or maybe it'll be some sort of humanoid monster that may be reasoned with or tricked or whatever. But typically that would be combat. Then a third of them will be an environmental effect of some sort. Something magical in the air, something tricky, something spooky, a loud noise. and then something will be, and then a third, and then another third will be maybe altering, maybe something falls and someone's got to dodge it. Maybe a ghost appears and tries to spook someone, stuff like that. You could build a whole world, a random table for everything. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of systems that already have that. There's plenty of people that just do that. It's funny because that's typically how a lot of people play solo D&D is, when they're just playing by themselves, is they sit there and they just roll up on these random tables and stuff. Actually, to give you a good example of that, I found one recently. Let me show that off here. The lesson I learned was to never join a session halfway through. True that. True that. But yeah, this Slay the Beast stuff. I'm gonna figure out my schedule tonight probably, and then I'll try and start running some games by next week for people to join in on the fun times. Oh, oh no! Tried loading up a little something that allows for random rolling here, but it's not loading. Has anyone chatted yet? Gosh darn it! Yeah, I'll get to working on that soon. Anybody do all that? Okay. I like spells that have effect in the world rather than just combat. It's imagination fuel for problem solving. Yeah, uh, yeah. I think a lot of people do just quickly, resort to everything is just all combat all the time. But there's definitely a lot more fun to be had doing other things. I suggest making shorts a couple of times a week to advertise new games. I only found you because the algorithm randomly suggested the one short you made for the last West Marches. Yeah, I'll be a bit more active this time. I'll definitely be a bit more active this time. Alrighty, so let me find, here we go. Alrighty, let me zoom in on this. So here is a random thing that I found for generating the wilderness. Let me grab this. Here we go. So you got this random table here for exploring the wilderness. You explore around. Okay, what you roll up what type of terrain this is. And then for the next one, is it a new terrain or is it the same terrain? Is there water? What's the weather like? And then over just above my head here, you've got discoveries. What's here? Is it scorching? Is it a nest? Is it a dungeon? What dangers are there? Traveling encounters here. What's above me right here? A magical glade, a field of mushrooms, a man locked in a cage. And then all the way down here, more part of the solo engine stuff here. Okay, what kind of quest do we have? Alright, our quest is we're going to locate an enemy. The enemy is a witch in a ruin. The opposition is a cult, so it's a witch cult. And the reward is going to be a special item. Cool. Like this right here is just 2 pages, like, one for the hex and stuff, and then there's like stuff for another system or whatever. But like a system like this is just like all you need to get the juices flowing. I've also got one for dungeons here if that ever loads. You could clip parts of these longer videos out too. Yeah, I do plan on I do plan on showing off a bit more. I'll be trying to do maybe some like sort of weekly report on the YouTube there, showing off some parts of the games that I'm running. Come on, load. Yeah, so this one is for creating dungeons. Like, oh hey, what's the theme of this dungeon? It's a cult. Okay, it's a cave. It's haunted, frozen. Cool. What's discovered around here? Shrines and what dangers are there? There's toxin, there's darkness. Look at this fun little possible bosses and stuff. Looks neat, although I'd like to inject a bit more realism and continuity for a group. Yeah, mind you, this is just like this is made for solo play. Like, so obviously, if you wanted to have a bit more like, what I would strongly recommend is if you want to incorporate this, you would sit there and you would map out like you map out like the area. You'd sit there and roll like, okay, in this hex has this thing and that thing and these people, and then move on to the next hex. Okay, move and then you create a big enough sandbox. Then you don't have to worry about creating anymore. That's what I would do. But mind you, there's all sorts of resources out there to generate this kind of stuff. But even still, like if I was gonna like go somewhere, like I was gonna be sitting on a plane, I would sit here and just play with myself the whole time. I'd be playing with myself in front of everyone on the on the airplane, and it would be a great time. Yeah, so in regards of the West Marches, yeah, like I said, I'm probably gonna figure out my schedule by tonight, try and start running some games by next week, and then of course I want to show off the game jam. I want to get more people making stuff for that. I think it'll be a great time. I think what I'm gonna do is make random tables for regions, so I have a bit narrative influence and it's cohesive. But this is a really good way to let go of control. Absolutely, absolutely. It like you know there other than thanks a lot, no problem, other than running pre-made modules, and just following the letter of the module law, the only other way you could sit there and like really just let go of it is just having running those, running this, right, is you know what roll for the random encounter that shows up, roll for what type of monster it is and all that. What other kinds of tables can you have besides for locations? I mean, everything. So you can have tables for absolutely everything. There's tables for the locations, for the dungeons, for the towns, for the people, for factions, for magical items. In fact, actually, let me show off here. Because I said magical items, and I need to show it off here. I need to show off my awesome magic items table, because my magic items table is just, for my upcoming tabletop role playing game system, is just so freaking good. Oh my lord, my magic items table is I'm just so happy with it. It is so dope. Let's see here. Come on, baby. So look at this. Look at this. Linda, look at this. Right? All right, so what type of armor do you have? Okay, it's an armor. I rolled up a 47. Alrighty, we got a breastplate. Alrighty, how many enchantments does it have? I roll up before. It's got 2 enchantments. Okay, what kind of enchantment category is it? I roll a 5, so I got a transformation, and then I also got a 15, so I got a narrative. Alrighty, and then number of oddities. I roll a 5, I get 1 oddity. Alrighty, so now I'm going to roll to see what I've got. So I've got a transformation. I roll a d12. Okay, my armor has a 7, beautiful glamour. Appears supernaturally beautiful while wearing this armor. Gaining upper hand on social roles with those who might be attracted. Cool. My armor makes me look sexy. And then narrative, I roll a d8. I roll a 3. Foreshadowing. Upon waking each day, receive a cryptic vision of coming danger. So dope, right? I wear this armor, I look sexy, and I get a cryptic idea of the dangers to come. But what sort of oddity curses do I have? I roll a d20. I roll a, let's go with a 16. Glass heart. The wearer becomes emotionally vulnerable and transparent. So I'm a good-looking person who gets a cryptic idea of the dangers to come, but I'm also emotionally vulnerable and transparent. I think that's just so, that's a great armor right there. I would wear that armor. Oh my god, that is fantastic. I wrote a little program that makes me NPCs on a click, and within, well, help of AI, lots of tables there too. Might just be explaining this, and great. Now I will hunt for good tables. Oh my gosh, there's millions of good tables out there. Wait, this is not the +1 magic item that I know from the best game systems ever. Yeah, so ultimately, I'm tired of just +1 magic items. I'm absolutely tired of it. And something to note, if you join my West Marches, I have a new magic item system. And I'm not going to spoil it yet because I can't wait for my players to start diving into that game and getting these magical items. But when they get these magical items, then I'll start telling everyone about it. But I am very, very happy with my magic items from my upcoming game. And mind you, these magic items are not just +1 this, +1 that. My magic items are, oof, they're spicy, they're fun, they're unique. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this was just this table here is just for my armors here. I've got magical clothes, instruments. Mind you, this is just a still work in progress, so there's still some like missing places or whatever. And then I've got miscellaneous items, and these are like the go-to guarantees. These are not random, but there's a bunch of them. 100 in total. Magic potions. Magic potions. Boom. Magic potions are also gonna be random as well. Absolutely love it. Do you play West March on Roll20? Yes, the West Marches will be on Roll20. I'll be making once again, I'll find out my schedule this week, and then not this week, hopefully by tonight, and I'll be posting on the Discord there. I'll be posting up the links for people to join so I can start, prepping all of that. How do you deal with identifying magic items and splitting the party with stealth? I mean, it depends on the system. I assume we're talking about 5e. In 5e, I'm always typically of the idea of you need to identify it either by casting an identify spell, paying for it, or just attuning to it and sucking it up. In regards of the party, splitting the party with stealth, what I do is I have my players describe what they're going to be doing. Like, oh, hey, like, I want to go here, do that, do this. I want to sneak past that guy, whatever. And then once they tell me their plan, that's when they make that stealth roll check if it becomes pertinent. If they're walking around and it's like, okay, so you're trying to get to here, and as you do, there's an enemy right around the corner. I need you to roll me that stealth check now. And then that stealth check will inform me, like, oh, hey, or if it'll inform everyone, either if you succeed or failed, and are, either caught or have to run away, or you get to sneak right on by. From my games, I can recommend magic items that grow in power when you do quests related to them. Players love it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we got magic potions, magic rings, rods, staves, and wands, scrolls, books, and maps, trinkets, weapons. Weapons, once again, they're not just the boring +1, that's the end of story. No, they get some more. And then legendary artifacts. These are the one-of-a-kinds that are the named things, like the Book of Infinite Spells, Beauty's Rose, Excalibur, the Genie's Lamp. The thing I'm most proud of, though, is this the Storybook of Many Pages, which is totally not a ripoff of the Deck of Many Things, I swear. I'm very proud of that magic item. A lot going on with that. But yeah, I'm very happy with my magical item tables here. Very, very happy. Ugh. In fact, actually, it's funny you say the growing thing. For my West Marches game that I'm running here, one of the subclasses for the fighter is actually all about you growing alongside your weapon. So if I want to show that off real quick, boom, boom, boom. There we go. Here we go. Character creation subclass. Here we go. Fighter, where are you at? LMN OP QRS TUV. Here we go. Enchanted Weapon Master. So it's all about you building a bond with this weapon, and as you grow up, like alongside this weapon, the weapon gets better, and you get to add some like fun abilities to it. I'll be very happy to see, because for those of you that don't know, for this upcoming West Marches, you are forced to play one of my subclasses, but I've got 80 subclasses for offer here, so you're not you're kind of spoiled for choice. You know what I'm saying? There's a there's a lot to offer. I like the subclasses. Heck yeah. What's I mean, if you've already looked, do you have any standouts? Do you have an idea of one of the first ones you're going to be playing? Because I am so basically this whole West March thing is just is sort of like a ploy for me to get people to play test my content. So I'll be curious to see everyone's feedback on not only the adventure but also the subclasses and everything else. Me personally, if I was to be a player, some of my standouts would be something along the lines of the Musketeer, because I just always love I love guns in fantasy games. I always do. Even if the guns are terrible, I just like them. Um, Specifically, not like modern guns. I always like muskets. Um, what's another fun one for me? I really like the. Is it Oath of the Rose? I think is one of my more favorite ones. I like Oath of the Rose. I think that one's solid. Rogue. Which one stands out to me here? Hard to say. Well, I just saw a couple. I looked at the wizard, the lesser magic mage made me think of a crafting mule since you were talking about MMO style. Yeah, definitely like when I go start to run this thing, you'll definitely see the community aspect of it where everyone is going to be working together. You're going to be earning gold together as a group, but obviously you're going to be getting gold individually. And like there may come times where it's like, oh hey, I want to do something. Can I get a small loan of like 500 gold or something? But I'll probably start with another at least. I feel inspired. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. No problem. No problem. No problem. No problem. Do 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 do. Oh yeah, the Morning Bride. Oh my gosh, I was really happy with this Warlock one because very much so like the idea of someone getting some like cool banshee powers and either like making it toward good or toward evil. I think is really cool. I like the idea of building organizations or some kind of meta progress. Absolutely, absolutely. So for a good example of that, the logic was in my last West Marches that I ran. The group made a bunch of meta progress. They would build they built thing or they basically over time new characters that would come into the campaign. They would start off with more gold, more XP, more stats, things like that. Um, they would get access to new classes. They got access to new spells. There was a bunch of meta progress in the last one I ran. No fun. I saw a typo in the rogue subclass header. Oh no, which one? No, please, please. Oh god. Oh, I think I see what you mean. Do you mean that there's a space? Is that the typo you're saying there, or is there like an actual like a word misspelled? Because if it's just that space, I'm not too worried about fixing it right this second. Rogue instead of rogue at the very top. It is. Oh no! It is Rogu. Oh no! I typed out Rogu of all the things. Of all the things to type out, I typed out Rogu. Oh god. I'll fix that later. I'll fix that later. I'll write that down. That's a typo. Oh gosh, darn it. Rogue sub header. Oh gosh, darn it. It is Rogu. Oh. I wonder if there's a ye old English writing of maybe it was son Rogu. I wonder if at some point Rogue was actually typed out like that, and I'm just being fanciful with it. Maybe that's what it is. I'm leaning in toward the French spelling of Rogue. That's what it is. Sorcerer. Oh god, is sorcerer spelled right? Now I'm not. Now I'm just sitting there being like, oh god, am I misspelling everything? No, the sorcerer is fine. I will say though, in creating all these subclasses, some subclasses are super easy. They just like come together, but some just like I feel like some subclasses they are just like awful. Makeup. Um. Hmm. Good old tragic romance. So for this campaign, I'm running I'm running like I'm running two different versions of this West Marches. One of the versions will be using 5e, and then one of them will be using my TTRPG. I will say though, like there is something specifically about 5e that I really dislike. That's a core fundamental design of the game. Is that they made bards super duper just they made bard wizards, and I really don't like that. What I personally would do if I could sit here and force people to play a different system, but let's be real here, most people want to play 5e. What I would do is I would make bard like warlock, in that instead of getting spells they would have the air quote invocations, but for bards I'd make it like a bardic talent, let's say. And so what it would be is, instead of getting a whole bunch of various spells, what they would get is a whole bunch of different features tied around, their bonus actions and their actions all being about either buffing the homies or debuffing the enemies. I'm guessing the castle is going to have animated furniture. I'm not gonna tell you it's not. I mean, you'll have to see. You'll have to start exploring around and find out, I guess. That may or may not be a thing. I'm saying without a doubt, there's a 100% chance that there's certainly maybe a possibility, perhaps. Maybe. Fun fact, in the annals of 5th edition's history, Mike Mearls would regularly make a whole bunch of content for Unearthed Arcana, and then eventually, like, a lot of it would mostly get scrapped. Like, he would make a bunch, and then only like one or two things would go through. One of the things he made was the Cleric Love Domain. And I liked the idea of it, but a lot of people didn't, because they thought that it was a little bit too creepy that clerics could, charm people, and then that'd be like love. But I'm throwing it out there. We'll see how people feel about it. I agree. Wizard Coast sucks now, but people want common language. Hopefully, we'll change. We'll see. We shall see. It's funny because, like, I know obviously Daggerheart is creating huge splashes in the TTRPG community, but I know darn well that Daggerheart will not supplant D&D. It just won't. They can give it the old college try, though. I wanted to play a mind control cult, but the DM quit before I creeped him out. The Lich God of Love is cool from Libris Mortis. The Lich God of Love. I have not seen that. I have not seen that. I'm trying to remember of all the fighter subclasses I did. Courtly Blade. This was the. Protect. Choose to deal no damage. Patient check. Three point oh book. I remember. Well, mind you, I'm air quote relatively new to the TTRPG world. I've only been doing it for the past I think like 6 or 7 years at this point. So my first introduction to D&D, to TTRPGs, was 5e. Since then, I've expanded out. I have touched all versions of D&D at this point, except for 4th edition. It's so funny because like so many people, like I played all editions of D&D. I played various video games. I've ran and played in various different editions. But the only one I have not touched was 4th edition. I just think it's really funny. Alrighty. I started 3.5. It has more non-standard spells. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's funny because I I enjoyed my time with third edition for as long as I played it. But ultimately, I personally am not a power gamer, and obviously third edition and consequently Pathfinder, they are very much so about you power gaming because you can in fact make your character wrong in those games. And that's kind of ultimately like where fifth edition I think kind of shined, and a lot of people to really grasp in the game is you didn't have to look up builds or plot out the course of your character. You could just make any character. I prefer that, not streamlined like for a computer game. Ultimately, it's a delicate balance for sure. Ultimately, though, I fully well suspect that the future of D&D is going to be I can't imagine a world where Wizard of the Coast or whoever gets a hand of Dungeons and Dragons in the future. There's no way they don't make the game centered around video games. You know what I'm saying? Like they just saw Baldur's Gate 3 sell absolute gangbusters. There's no way they don't sit there with that consideration of thinking, okay, video games are gonna make us money. Like there's no way they don't, right? And it's funny, a little while ago I put out a poll on YouTube about, hey, has Baldur's Gate 3 affected your games? And actually I get a bunch of comments on it to this day. Let's take a look. I'm curious about the poll results. I think the majority of people said it did change the way that they run games. Baldur's Gate 3. So of the 838 votes, 57% said yes. Baldur's Gate 3 has influenced their table, which doesn't surprise me at all. I feel like a lot of people learned about the game. I feel like a lot of people maybe want a bit more story heavy focused game because of it. I feel like people are probably a bit more exploratory with their actions now. It does not surprise me. Oh boy. So, yeah, like I said, hopefully I'll be able to find out my schedule by tonight, and then I'll start posting up session times next week. I'll be posting up the games in the Roll20 so people can start making their characters, doing all that great stuff. Really looking forward to running this game. Really looking forward to seeing people use my subclasses. Really looking forward to seeing people play in my TTRPG, not just 5e, because I want to sell my own TTRPG, damn it. Really looking forward to all that. And I'm also looking forward to for more people to get in on this game jam as well. I want to show off a bit more of that. I want to get people to make hex stuff. Exciting. Woo woo. Woo woo. Woo hoo. Heck yeah. Nice, I'll be a bard. What subclass are you looking for, huh? I got some subclasses for you. I've got College of Enchanted Objects, College of Tragic Romance, College of Transformation, College of Forgotten Lore, and College of Courts. I've got some options for you. I'm providing you more options for subclasses than D&D 2024 is. How about that? I'm giving you 5 options. ultimately, of those five, I think between those two, like the top two for my favorite would be the Tragic Romance and the College of Courts. He's like a guy in an alley who opens his trench coat to sell you subclasses. Hey kid, want some subclasses? Eloquence? No, you have to play my subclasses. Them's the rules. You want to play in my campaign, you gotta play my subclasses. Them's the breaks. Hey kid, want some subclasses? I like it. It's new material, but it's not overwhelming. Yeah, like ultimately, I there is a phenomenon in the TTRPG sphere, specifically with 5e. I feel like it is very more predominant with 5e than with other TTRPGs, in that there's a lot of people that when they show up to a table, they expect that their character can work in that game. When I personally am of a disagreement of that. I feel like you should always make a character for that table, not make a character and then just have that them fit into any table. Because maybe DMs want a certain feel, tone, setting. Maybe DMs want to exclude certain, either classes or subclasses or spells or whatever. So I think it's important to just make characters per the individual campaign. Like, not a whole new system to learn at once. I mean, if you want to, if you want, you can start looking through my stuff, because I've got my TTRPG system up and running there. Mind you, once you played 5th edition, it's very much so easy to bounce to other D20 systems. It's very much so easy. You typically know how resolutions work. You understand basic mechanics. That'd be cool. Baby steps, absolutely. Like, ultimately, like 5e is one of the more complex TTRPGs out there. I know that a lot of people are always like up in arms saying 5e isn't complicated. 5e is complicated. If I took 1,000 TTRPGs, 5e would easily be in the top 100 of complicated TTRPGs. It easily would be. Easily. Mind you, there is some absolutely obtuse, absolutely ridiculously complex TTRPGs out there. There's some ridiculously, wacky ones. But 5e is still complicated compared to, like, there is so many more simple TTRPGs out there than there is complicated ones. So many more. And mind you, I personally like running simpler ones because it lets players get in the game, and it makes the game less gamey. Which, I know some people like the gamey aspect of the game more, but I know for a fact a lot of people don't want the game to be more gamey. They want to focus on other stuff. So, what are some key diffs between your system and 5e? Let me show that off to you real quick here. Let me show that off to you here real quick, Lex. Boop. Alrighty, so here we go. Welcome to Make Believe, my TTRPG. Shall I name the unnameable Fatal? Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. So, here are some core key differences between this system and 5e. First and foremost, let's go down the table of contents here. Ability scores. Ability scores is pretty simple here. Instead of you having 6 stats, which are strength, dex, con, will, or wisdom, strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Instead of having those 6, What it is you have four. You have strength, finesse, will, and charm. Strength being strength, finesse being dex, will being a combination of your intelligence, wisdom, and charm being your charisma. I got rid of con because I hate con. I think con is a terrible stat. I think con actively ruins the game. I truly do believe this. I believe con makes the system worse. Absolutely. So I got rid of con. But each class has its own two unique stats. So no matter what character you are, you have these four stats right here. But then depending on your class, you will have your own two ability scores. So that's the first one. The second big difference of this to 5e would be XP. So it is predominantly an XP system. This is not, 5e has gone. 5e has absolutely thrown XP out the window at this point. 5e has, is absolutely a milestone kind of system, which is funny because in my West Marches game it is XP, but it's using a little bit of a different XP system. Combat. So instead of individual initiative, come on, load thing. Instead of combat being individual, I roll and then I'm there forever and all the time. What it is it works in three phases. So as combat starts, a combat round starts, you have to declare which phase are you going to participate in. Are you going to participate in the move melee phase, the missile phase, or the magic phase? Magic and other phase, I should say. And so that will determine when you go. First, you roll for the move melee phase. Both sides roll off, and if your side wins, then whoever declared that in the move melee phase gets to go. And then the other side gets to go. And then you get to roll once again for the missile phase. You get, whoever wins gets to go, and then the other side gets to go. And then you roll once again for the magic and other action phase, and so on and so forth. And what that does is, first off, it penalizes magic because you do act last in the round. But of course, that's mitigated by the fact that magic is so monstrously powerful, right? Looking at 5th edition, who's got a more impactful turn? The wizard that casts Fireball, hitting 5 people, doing 86 damage to each of them, or the fighter who gets to swing 2 times, and if they so have the luxury, they use their action surge and attack 2 more times. A single target. You know what I'm saying? Like, magic people get a little bit more going on for them. So this system allows for, at least the melee people and the missile people to get a little something in going on. So that's another big change compared to 5e. And then lastly here, we talked about this earlier, but the whole adjudication and, what do you call it stuff? The refereeing side of things. That pertains to the dungeon. That pertains to encounters as well. When you're moving around a dungeon, you're on a timer. You take, like, for every action you do, that's 1 dungeon turn. And depending on how long you're in the dungeon, the worse things get, right? By definition, Mage means powerful. Exactly. So, going on to characters specifically, besides the whole stats thing, another big change is good old-fashioned alignment. Alignment has gone out of favor in D&D's, history, and it admittedly is fallen out of favor for a great number of reasons, because people feel like they are hamstrung into playing their character a certain way, because terrible players do terrible things in the name of their alignment, because terrible DMs do terrible things in the name of alignment. But ultimately, I feel like alignment is cool. And so in this system, we have alignment. Now, what does alignment do? Alignment gives you special powers, features, and affects your spells based on your alignment. There's 5 alignments in this game. There's pure virtue, virtuous, balanced, dark, and wicked. And when you create your character, you're gonna land somewhere around there. You're either gonna be dark, balanced, or virtuous, depending on your decisions. But throughout the course of gameplay, your alignment will go up and down depending on your choices. If you're the goody two shoes who keeps on doing incredibly good things, your points are going to go up. If you're the person who keeps on doing bad things, your points are going to go down. And that affects and reflects on your character. And I think that's perfectly a good way to go about it. Instead of alignment just being some random thing that, somewhat, refers to your character, I guess, maybe, possibly. Instead, alignment is just a pure reflection of your choices and decisions made throughout the course of the campaign. So to give you showcasing here, we have the origins. This is your race. So you got your typical stuff. You got your dwarves. You got your elves. You got a gnome. You got your human. But then, of course, you got other things. This is a fairy tale themed TTRPG after all. We've got egg child, goose folk, frog folk, mushroomkin, lost child, things like that. For backgrounds, you got your farmers, your grave tenders, your knight errant, your hedge witch, etc., etc. But in my core game here, I've got 26 classes, and each of those classes are incredibly unique. So let's take a look at the bogged down, basic, simple soldier here. The soldier is like the fighter of this system. Let's take a look at it. So the soldier, as I lose my freaking mouse there. Let's take a look here to give you a comparison here. Soldier, the hit dice D10, armor, all shields, weapons, all melee and all ranged weapons. Their class stats include might and stoutness. Your stats will basically appear throughout your character sheet what they do. At level 1, a soldier has a bonus action each round, usable only for these specific actions. Shoving a foe, increasing movement speed by 10, gaining +1 AC, giving +1 to attack to someone else, drawing or sheathing a weapon, gaining upper hand on your next saving throw. At level 1, you add your stoutness bonus or 1 to all resolve and spirit saves. Additionally, recover 1 additional HP during rest. Cool. Once per week, allow your party to reposition before combat begins. Allies move up to half their speed without triggering opportunity attacks. Cool stuff. Something to note is when you look through my product, so same AC system, yes, same AC system, but actually, I'll get to that in a moment here. All armor has damage reduction. And there's also some other fun stuff with weapons. But ultimately, when you look through my product, you will see that every single class and a bunch of features, either pertaining to your class or your background, your origin, your spells, a lot of them have things that say help out the homies. Because this is a team-based oriented game. We're playing a tabletop role-playing game with other people at the table. This is a team-based game, so there's a bunch of features that say, help out the homies, assist the homies. It makes it a team-based game. Soldier of Fortune, you can choose not to have your alignment score changed upon your actions once a day. You're a Soldier of Fortune. Maybe you kind of overlook, stealing candy from a baby sometimes. Your critical hit range increases by 1. Yippee. But then here, boom, we got the big thing here. Your alignment powers. At 3rd level, depending on your alignment, you get different abilities. So if you're pure, you're a goody two-shoes kind of boy. You grant temp HP to allies within 10 feet equal to your level as a bonus action once a day. Once again, you're a goody two-shoes, you get to help out the homies. Virtuous. Inspiring presence. Allies within 10 feet of you gain +1 to saves against fear or charm effects. Cool. Helping out the homies. Balanced. You're the middle of the road. Pragmatic fighter. Reroll one failed saving throw per day. That's pretty big. Dark. You're a little bit of an edgelord. You're a little bit of a bad boy. You stole candy from a baby. Terror Strike. Once per day, add your might bonus or 1 to a melee's attack damage and force the target to make a heart save or become frightened for 1 round. Ooh, look at that. You're putting some extra damage in and you're making them a little bit of a scaredy cat. And then lastly, you're wicked. You're the baddest of the bad. You steal candy from all the babies. Bloodthirsty Resolve. When you drop an enemy to 0 HP, regain 1 HP. Cool stuff right there. Every single class has an alignment influence to them. Every single one, you you can be playing the same character, you can be playing the same class, but depending on your alignment, it's going to drastically affect things. So let's take a look at equipment here. Armor. Same armor system here we got. You got armor that ranges from 10 all the way up to 17. However, armor comes with this added benefit. It comes with a damage reduction. A damage reduction of 1 means that if you take 2 points of damage, you actually only take 1. 2 damage reduction means you get hit for 5. Oh, hey, you only take 3. Damage reduction of 3. You get hit for 10. Oh, hey, it's only down to 7. Cool. Something to note, though, is that heavy armor does impose, make your stealth checks a little bit worse, but that's beside the point. Now, the other, can you swim in full plate? Fun fact, I've got a whole thing about that. Let me grab this here. And also, by the way, this whole PDF is hyperlinked, so there's that. Dangers and other considerations. Swimming, as I block it with my friggin' face here. Swimming. If swimming in armor, apply the following. In light armor, 1 in 12 chance of drowning. In medium armor, 2 in 6 chance of drowning. In heavy armor, 4 in 6 chance of drowning. If over encumbered, you drown automatically. So there you go. There you go. So something fun here with the weapons is all the weapons, that in addition to their properties, they also have like a variance of damage. One, the crit could be different. So for example here, we've got the axe. The axe normally does 1d8 damage, but a crit does 2d8 damage. But then you've got something like, let's say here, the lance. The lance does a d10 damage, but a crit does 3d10 damage. Woo. And then you might notice there's little symbols here. So with weapons, some weapons are more prone to critting. If they have a little asterisk here, that means that the chance to crit is increased by that number. So a sword means you get a +1 to your crit, meaning that instead of critting on a 20, you crit on a 19 or 20. But if you notice, the fighter, or the soldier of this game, had a feature which increases their likelihood to crit. Meaning that if you're a soldier, you already crit on a 19 or 20. Meaning if you use a sword, you crit now on 18, 19, and 20. Etc., etc. Cool stuff, right? Also, some of the weapons' damage here has a plus, meaning that if you roll the maximum of that damage, you get to roll the dice again. If you're using a two-handed sword and you roll 10 damage, then whoop-de-doo, you get to roll a d10 again. Yippee. And lastly here, I think one of the big features of my game is the fate system. So when you make your character, you choose a fate. Your fate is a fantastic way to give your character and give the DM a reasonable idea of what the path they want to follow throughout the course of the campaign. Your fate that you choose has a starting ability and features tied to your alignment, but they also have a milestone ability, which is something that you've got to unlock over the course of a campaign. And then, of course, you've got a completion ability, which, once again, you unlock over the course of a campaign. These, however, are finite. You start the game with only a few fate points. You start off with 1d4 plus your will modifier and fate points. But if you roll up your character completely randomly, then you start off with extra fate points depending on how many aspects of your character you rolled on. And the idea behind fate is that this is a finite resource. You only earn it through doing incredibly awesome deeds throughout the course of the campaign, and you use them to unlock these awesome powers. And when you use these awesome powers, they last for the remainder of the session. So, to give you a highlight here, one of my more favorite ones is the air. Oh, yeah, let's look at the air. So, when you like inspiration, sort of like inspiration, except that you can have a bunch of it. Instead of it just being locked to only one, right? So the heir. Gain a small retinue of loyal followers. These followers are semi-competent NPCs whose capabilities grow modestly with your level. But then, depending on your alignment, this entourage is different. If you're, let's say, virtuous, your leadership motivates those who follow you. Your retinue gains +1 bonus to attack rolls and temporary HP equal to your will modifier at the start of combat. But if you're a bad boy, you're wicked, your terrifying reputation bolsters your retinue. They gain +2 to damage rolls, and any enemies who witness your retinue's brutality must succeed on a morale check or retreat. Fun stuff like that. Then milestone. Upon reclaiming your family's legacy, either through conquest or diplomacy, you gain access to greater resources. Once per month, you can summon reinforcements, a group of loyal soldiers, or a bunch of money. And then lastly, the completion ability. After achieving your ultimate destiny as the heir, you ascend as a ruler of great renown. Your retinue gains +1 to all rolls and is immune to fear effects. You gain upper hand on all charm checks during negotiations, and NPCs of lower status are hesitant to defy you openly. Once per day, you may issue a command to any creature that can hear you. Save against wit to resist. If successful, they must obey you for up to 1 minute. Like that's one of my favorite ones right there, but I've got a bunch of these bad boys. Got a bunch of them. Another one is, I think another one of my favorites is the lover as well. I think the lover can be a really great tool for, like, a campaign. Like, you tell your DM, okay, my fate is the lover, and then your DM gets to be like, oh boy, I get to spin this fun little weave of like, oh hey, what's going on with the lover? Was it a scorned lover? Was it or did they get captured? What's going on? Is it an on again, off again relationship? Do you like them? Do they like you? There's so many fun things you can do with that. I feel like stat bonuses could play more into the chances of success. They do. But good to not be too complex. No, this game is like complex in the regards of like you've got a lot of features, but you're not using the features. You know what I'm saying? Like look, a perfect example is like looking at the lover, for example, right? You're like, you look at that and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on with it, but you're not using a lot of it. You're only your alignment isn't gonna be you're only gonna have one of the alignment abilities depending on your alignment, and is what it is, right? So this game required a ton of writing for like you're not gonna be using much of it, but there's just so much so many potential options there is. So here with the lover, we've got gain upper hand on social checks involving someone enamored with you. This can include persuasion, deception, or request for aid as long as the target harbors affection or admiration for you. And then like something fun here is like if you're dark, your affection is a tool. Enamored NPCs make decisions in your favor, even to their detriment, unless they succeed on a wit saving throw. And if you're a heartbreaker, your love is a weapon. When you betray or abandon someone enamored with you, they suffer lower hand on all rolls involving wit saves or morale for the next day. So like you can be like the petty lover, you're like, ugh, like use your love against them. They're like, they're just I'm so happy with like how everything has turned out with this product. Let me tell you. Alrighty, so that's fate, and then lastly here, let's take a look at spells. So spells are the big thing here because surprise, surprise, your alignment affects it. Per example here, Eldritch Flames. Unleash flames of otherworldly energy. Creatures in the area take 3d6 fire damage. Fortune save for half. But if you're pure virtue, flames heal allies for 1d6 HP if they pass through. Cool. You're a good boy. You get to heal the homies. If you're virtuous, flames burn brighter against wicked foes, dealing +1d6 radiant damage against them. Cool stuff. Balance. Flames spread evenly, dealing an additional d4 force damage to all targets. So if you're just a neutral guy, do a little bit of damage to everybody. Dark. Flames cling to enemies, dealing 1d6 fire damage at the start of their next round. And Wicked. Flames corrupt the ground, creating difficult terrain for enemies. So that's honestly like where the air cool complexity of this game really comes down to is your alignment is such a big change up in the way your character operates. Like, just with that Eldritch Flames here, if you're the occultist, you could have two occultists casting the exact same spell, but it's going to be vastly different, right? Also, something to note is all the spellcasters do operate fundamentally mechanically differently, so there is that. But other than that, this game is relatively close to, this is obviously not the closest to 5e, but I would say that game is basically like a crossing between first edition D&D and fifth edition D&D. It's sort of like an amalgamation between the two. So, it is what it is. And every single time I pass by one of my favorite classes, the Dreamweaver, I just sit there and start singing Dreamweaver. Oh man, very very happy with this product. Can't wait till I get some money and then I can start getting artists to make some art, because as of right now, all the art in this book is all common domain. Do you have many spells like Tiny Hut or Move Earth? Some, yeah. To give you a little synopsis here, looking at this graph here, every caster of the four main casters, several of the casters are like pseudo casters, so they don't operate like this. But the four main casters, they each have 12 spells per spell level, and they each have 6 spell levels. So if you do the math on that, basically of the four traditional spellcasters, they have a bejesus ton of different spells. And mind you, there is no crossover. There is no, oh hey, if you're a witch, you have the same spells as the priest. No. Every single caster has their own unique spells. There is no crossover at all. But yeah, there's some obviously spells that are like X or like Y or like Z, of course, of course. Oh man, it's funny. There's a non spellcaster, the runesmith. They basically apply a spell effect onto like a weapon or armor, so that's why they're in the back here. I just like having options to think outside of the box, but I haven't gotten many good chances. I mean, I'll tell you what. If you play using this system, you will get plenty of that. I promise you. This system and the way I run games and the way this game is ran provides that opportunity to have not only a ton of options, but to have a ton of different ways on how to utilize those options. I promise you. Oh, man, the class that I think has the most options, though, the one that required it was such a pain in the ass to write, but it was so well worth it, was the Spirit Caller. The Spirit Caller, so how the Spirit Caller works is you summon 3 different spirits. You summon a Guardian Spirit, a Wraith Spirit, and a Guide Spirit. And the idea is as you level up, your spirits get different and better. But the thing that was the biggest pain for me was I was resolute in this. Your alignment affects all 3 of those spirits differently. So what that meant was, like, when you look at like the soldier here, it's like, oh hey, your 5 alignments. Okay, you get like one little sentence here. You get 2 sentences there. But then for the freaking Spirit Caller, that's 5 times 3 that I had to do there. It was so much effort, but my God, was it worth it? I love the Spirit Caller. So much different flavor, so much different variety, so many different options. Oh, so good. So good and tasty. Mmm. Nice, looks useful. I'm thank you. I'm very happy with it. I am very, very happy with it. I'd say I'm like 95% done with the player's handbook. I as you saw, I was working on the DMG for all the magical items and stuff, but yeah, just wanted to throw my hat into the TTRPG ring. I've not only made this TTRPG, but I'm working on several other TTRPGs slowly in the back burner, of course, because I want to finish up this one before I start spread myself too thin here. Very, very happy with it. Also, something I am doing for every single game forever and here on out is I am mandating that my players roll for their character's birthday and give them a fun little feature tied to their birthday. I'm doing that for like every game, every fantasy game I ever run forever and here on out. So with this system, you roll up your birthday and then you get a fun little special little something, special little something. Oh hey, you're born on the waxing moon of of around here, Stormborn. Get +1 will checks. Cool. Oh hey, you are born under the waning moon of Dreamtide. You get a +1 to any check to resist magical sleep or charm. Cool. Cool beans, right? Just fun little cute things depending on your birthday. I love that stuff. Like that stuff right there, I think like really, really helps cement your players into playing in the world. Always fun. I'm using tables for magic item availability right now. Heck yeah. I mean, from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Heck yeah. I will say too, I think, I mean, from what it's sounding like, you're definitely more of a 5e kind of individual. Something to note about the OSR is that in OSR play, your characters typically had a lot less going on for them, and to counteract that, you would get a bejesus ton of magical items, and then your magical items would be the things that really give you unique features and abilities. The thing though is in 5e characters typically have already so many features and so many spells and so many things going on with them that a lot of DMs are typically reluctant to give them a whole horde of magical items. But it is what it is. Ah. Still need to work on this thing though. I see what you mean. More fun to earn your bits power. Yeah, that too. That like that right there, I think is very like indicative of a different style of play. When you look at like first off, in old school essentials like the first edition of D&D, fighters had no features at all. Like their only feature was that they could use any armor and any weapon. Like they had no class feature at all. There was first edition, there was no second wind, there was no action surge, there was no nothing. All you could do is just what literally everyone else could do, right? Except of course you could wear any armor and any weapon. But then that's really fun because like in one campaign you get a magical item that lets you fly, and then another campaign you get a magical item that your sword like talks, and then you get another campaign like. And so like you could keep playing the same class that has nothing going on for them, but depending on the campaign, like your character fleshes out that much more differently. Versus I think sometimes you can get into the trap of if a system is like you build a character depending on your devices, then you kind of get locked into you can't expand out from that typically. Which is another reason why I like my own system here, is because you can, once again, play a character, but depending on your alignment, you're going to have a different set of abilities. Oh. But yeah, that's my TTRPG in a nutshell there. Pretty happy with it, pretty stoked. Can't wait to start running this for everybody. try and get my schedule up and running. Let's play already, LOL. Yeah, like I said, I got to get my schedule. Got to talk to the people in charge, and then I'll start running. But I think I'll stick around for another like 2-3 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, gripes, moans, complaints, general observations, feel free to say it. Otherwise, I'll either speak now or wait until next time. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get this game up and running here because I've been jonesing to show off my stuff here. I've been writing bejesus ton and it needs to breathe out. Looking forward to it. Thanks for everything. No problem. No problem. Justin, which one are you going to be joining? Are you going to be joining the 5e? Are you going to be joining my make believe, or are you going to be joining both? I'm actually curious. I am curious. Oh man. Unsure. 5e looks interesting, but so does make believe. I guess you have to play them both. I guess you have to. What a shame. You got to play more games. Oh my goodness. The beauty of West Marches. True, true. West Marches is just like it's tough because like I know there's some people out there that really want to have that critical they want to have that Critical Role campaign where you get a bunch of people together and you're always right there at the same time every week and you get to compound upon this grand old thing. But yeah, the sad, cold, unfortunate truth is a lot of people, life gets in the way, and West Marches is just a way for you to get in the game. It's a way for you to feel like you're part of a community. You don't feel bad if you miss out on sessions, or knowing that like you're canceling the game for everyone else. Good times. Good times, these West Marches. Oh boy. All right, well, that is going to do it for me. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. Thank you for all the patrons. Thanks for joining the Discord. Thanks for doing all that stuff. I can't wait to run games for you all. If you haven't already, check out the game jam I'm hosting. I want to show off, I want people to drop in their Hex content. And I'll see you next time. See ya!